Mother Knows Death, starring Nicole and Jemmy and Maria QK.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mother Knows Death. We have so much to get into this week. Of course, don't forget that all of the stories and the news that we don't cover on Mother Knows Death, we link in the Gross Room, and we talk about additional stories on our YouTube live episode every week that's exclusive for Gross Room members. On today's episode, we're going to talk about Fred Goldman receiving payment from OJ Simpson's estate almost 30 years after his son was killed. A lot of people online are comparing that to a more recent case that we have talked about a lot on this show, so we'll get into a discussion about that. A terrible case of medical malpractice in a hospital that left a child dead. A drunk driver who crashed doing something unusual, or maybe it's usual in drunk drivers, I don't know. Then we're going to get into something we've already talked about on this show, which involves a deadly allergic reaction to meat. We'll wrap things up with a case of a man who was living in a home and died as a result of severe constipation, and a woman who had her son's ashes stolen from her car. Then your comments and questions. All that and more on today's episode. Let's talk about OJ Simpson.
Well, first I'll say sorry if our voices are in and out. It is post-nasal drip season in the Kane and Jemmy household. It has been brutal. Also, thank you to everybody who entered the giveaway the last 2 weeks. We have emailed all of the winners, and congratulations to Katie, who is going to be going to dinner with us. So I've already talked to her, and she's very excited, and I'm very excited to hang out with her.
And we're going to have last year's winner, Emma, come with us too, right?
Hopefully, if the dates line up. So, Emma, we're waiting for you. So.
And yeah, Katie, you're saying congratulations. She might be like, I never want to eat with these people again.
No, but we're super
She
excited.
might learn the hard way what an Aunt Jemmy dinner is really like around this place.
Well, hopefully this time we don't have the world's worst waiter that comes over literally 100 times. That was insane.
Yeah, I can't stand that shit, man. We should. I don't have enough guts to just go up to somebody and just tell them to leave us the F alone. Like, seriously.
Well, especially because we were there with Emma, and I'm like, we haven't hung out with her before, and I don't want to come across as being a massive bitch that's getting annoyed by this person coming over a million times. But eventually it was so much that we all kind of looked at each other and we were like, this is ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's get into OJ though. So 30 years after the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman, the OJ estate has finally agreed to pay Ron Goldman's father $58 million.
Well, I mean, you know what's crazy? A lot of things. As you get older, you hear about how long ago things happened, and then you're just like, holy shit, I'm really old, and I just can't even believe the OJ Simpson thing was almost 30 years ago. And on top of that, though, I feel like I've known Fred Goldman my whole life. He's been fighting for his son and going through all of this stuff. So it does make me happy that before he dies that he might get some justice in this case, although the money is not really going to ever help, but it's just more of a principle thing at this point. So of course everyone is now online saying comparing this to the Karen Reed case, of course, because as we know, she was also acquitted, and her family now currently has a civil lawsuit in a similar fashion towards her for the death of their son, John O'Keefe. It's I guess it's a little bit, and towards the bars that he was at too. So, Ree, why don't you just briefly just say what that case is for people that might not really remember?
Well, I will encourage everybody to go back a couple months when we did a really big deep dive into that case because we got into every single element of it. But just for people that don't know, I can't imagine anybody that listens to the show doesn't know.
So we had an episode, we talked about it with a couple different people, right? That we've had as guests.
Yeah, we've covered it with a couple different guests, and then we did a full episode devoted to every detail of the case. Wasn't that episode like almost 2 hours long? It's so long.
And there's also two posts actually in the Gross Room going by step and showing photographs of what this would have looked like at autopsy and why we think it was this and why we think it was that. So there's a lot of information if you guys are interested, but just like a brief
Yeah, but just basic highlights is this woman and her boyfriend were out with their friends. It was snowing outside, and then they were going to go back to one of the boyfriend's friends' homes. They drove there. Karen Reed's claiming she dropped the boyfriend off at the house. The friends are claiming he never came in the house. And then all of a sudden, the next morning, he's found dead. So she ended up going on trial because the friends were saying she admitted to hitting him. There is inconsistent findings at autopsy that didn't suggest he got hit by a car. It actually looked like he maybe got attacked by an animal. The family inside the house had a dog. They suspiciously got rid of the dog right after he died. I mean, there's a million details, but she ended up having two trials. The first one was a mistrial, and then the second one, she was acquitted. So now his family is going after her in a civil lawsuit, which is very similar to the OJ case because OJ famously was acquitted in the criminal trial, but he was found guilty in the civil wrongful death suit.
So John O'Keefe's family is doing a civil suit against Karen Reed, but also against the two bars that they were drinking at or something that night before this incident happened. I kind of, even though I personally, I don't know how I feel. I don't think I've ever said that think that she's innocent, but I just think that the investigation was so botched that you definitely can't say that she was guilty of anything. Furthermore, I just don't trust anything that was happening with the investigators whatsoever, and it's just all kind of shady to me. So, but from a parent's perspective of your child being the victim of this happening, I do think that they possibly have a case because even though she was found to be not guilty, the only reason that he was in that situation is because she knowingly let him out of the car drunk and left him there, correct? So
Yeah.
technically she would be responsible for whatever happened after that. Unless they're able to go back and prove that all of these other people were involved with it, then obviously she still could possibly get in trouble just because she kind of left a person that was incapacitated to a certain extent in a situation where they ended up dying because of it.
You know what else I feel like I saw in the news recently too was the state trooper, the most controversial person in the Karen Reed trial, Michael Proctor, who I always want to call John Proctor after the Salem witch trials, or I think the Scarlet Letter, whatever. He has a historical name, but I always get it confused. Anyway, I think I read in a headline that when they started going through his stuff, they found other cases that he botched, and now I'm wondering if all those people are going to get out of prison
Oh, I can't
because of
even
that.
imagine the implications of that. I
Mhm.
mean, any single, we talk to a lot of detectives on this show and just law enforcement that all are like, what the hell was going on in that case? So, and it was a legit law enforcement office. It's not just like they didn't have any kind of experience with something like this happening. It just was so weird. All of it from collecting evidence in red solo cups, the people on that this guy's found dead on a front lawn and nobody came out to check. It's just so outrageous to me. Just like imagine waking up in the morning and seeing a bunch of cop cars outside of your house and they're a dead person laying on the ground or a person that just was transported to the hospital that was found unresponsive on your lawn. You're not going to go outside and be like, what's going on here?
Well,
Come on.
exactly. I mean, we can't even start
They
getting into
didn't
this because this
I
could
know,
be
I
this
know.
whole episode.
They didn't even have you might be able to say if they had one of these 5-acre houses that the front lawn was a road to get to the house. No, it was just like a normal burb house. You could see their house from the street. It was very close. It just the whole entire situation was weird. But yeah, so but it's the same with Ron Goldman, I guess, or and the Fred Goldman suing OJ Simpson because I guess the civil suit had said that the only reason that that guy was at the house and was in danger. It's actually not even as strong of a case as Karen Reed, to be honest with you, because
I mean, I think the jury in the civil suit clearly saw, clear as day, that he was guilty, right? And they were like, he already got off with criminal charges, so the least he could do is give them some money. And I don't even think it's about the Goldmans getting money. I think it's about trying to disturb this person's life in any way you can, because the money is just not going to bring your child back.
Well, I just wonder what I mean, if he was truly acquitted in a court of law of being not guilty during this civil trial, they decided that he was I think it's the same thing we're talking about with the Karen Reed thing. Like, the only reason that he was there was because of OJ Simpson, and therefore it doesn't matter if he directly killed him or not. He died as a result of that kind of. Or did they actually say, "Oh, he killed
Well,
Ron Goldman"? You
I
know what I mean?
what you're saying doesn't make sense though, because he wasn't like at that house because of OJ Simpson.
I know, that's what
So
I'm
he would have
saying.
had to be convicted for in the civil trial for killing him, because otherwise he didn't know him.
Yeah, I just wonder.
Like,
I
you
don't
could
know.
argue with Karen Reed that she knowingly let a intoxicated person
Yeah.
out of her vehicle that then led to his death, right? But with them, it's like that's not what happened. I think Ron Goldman was going to drop off Nicole Brown Simpson's sunglasses, and then
Yeah,
there
that
was
he had
obviously rumors
there's
they were having a relationship. But
yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. The thing is so weird, and it does suck that another thing that I was thinking that sucks is like your son is horrifically murdered in this way almost 30 years ago, and this guy still is fighting and still battling with OJ Simpson. It's like his entire identity has been the murder of his son his whole life. And I see the guy just I've known him since he was a young guy, and just seeing getting older on all the news articles and stuff. It's just really sad that people have to go through that.
no, it's terrible. And can we talk about the inflation for a minute? Because the Goldmans originally won a settlement of $33 million, and then Fred Goldman calculated with interest over time and other fees that today that was worth $117 million. So that's what he first went to the estate with, and they were like, absolutely not, your calculations are off. And then they negotiated down to $58 million, which is still so much unfathomable money. But it's kind of like, thank God OJ died, because if he didn't, then the estate wouldn't even have considered giving him this money, because OJ clearly wasn't giving him the money. And so they say they plan to pay him by auctioning off items of OJ's, right? But conveniently, a bunch of his memorabilia was stolen, and they're working to get it back. It's such bullshit. Like, this guy has gone through this horrific tragedy, and not only are you losing a child, but it's all over the news. It's arguably the most famous true crime case ever. It was the biggest deal in the world. What was it? The first televised court case, right? So it was this huge deal. And then it's like, now you're supposed to get this money, and they're trying to screw you out of getting the money.
It was a really wild time. I was in high school, and I remember them
You were
announcing it.
pregnant with me.
No, I don't
Yeah, because it
know.
was June 94, the trial. Or no, he was dead in June of 94, I think. The murders occurred in 94. So the trial would have been in 95.
Yeah, I remember. I'm just like, no, because I know I was at that high school after I had you. It was just really weird because they announced it over the loudspeaker. And just
Can you imagine?
no, it's so weird. Like, I guess they figured that nobody in school or including teachers could focus because it was towards the end of the day when they announced it over the loudspeaker. But it's just such a weird thing to think about my kids being in school right now and them going over the loudspeaker and just being like, just to let you know, Karen Reed is not guilty, and like people in the school screaming, like hearing it through the other classrooms and stuff. It just was a very weird time. All right, let's we're talking about OJ too much, and it's some of these old true crime cases. I'm just kind of like, okay, can we talk about something else, please?
That was worth talking about, though. That was a huge thing for the
Well,
Goldmans.
and yes, it is, and that guy, I feel the worst for that particular family because, um, I mean, not that it doesn't suck, obviously, for Nicole Brown Simpson's family too, but it's just like they they were well aware of like all of that drama and stuff, and that guy probably had absolutely no idea what dangers were awaiting him going to that house that night, and just had no clue about the history of abuse and stuff like that. And he was a young guy, and I mean, just like from their family's perspective, it's just uh, it must have just been devastating. Okay, so this next story is really scary and could happen to anyone. It's just really let's talk about this.
So, a 2-year-old has died after a doctor accidentally deleted a decimal point while issuing the boy a prescription, which led to him receiving 10 times the amount of medication he should have.
So the investigation with this case un has revealed a lot because as soon as I read this, I had some questions for my cousin Al, who's a pharmacist, which we'll see him at the Christmas party soon if he's listening right now. I had some questions about how this could possibly even happen. So this is a regular hospital. This kid's 2 years old, and he was a little bit of a smaller kid for his age and for his size, but not anything super abnormal. He was in the 30th percentile for weight and size. But he came into the hospital because he had a virus and had really low potassium, so that could happen from diarrhea and vomiting and stuff like that. That's all fairly normal stuff. And the kid goes into the hospital. He was actually transferred to another hospital because they wanted to be able to take care of him better at this other hospital. And the doctor gave him an IV of potassium to increase it. And I guess they did the levels the next day and it didn't really rise that much more. So he decided to add more. And so the very first day when he gave the potassium, it was at 1.5 millimoles, right? And the second day, he was supposed to get a little bit of a boost, and instead it was ordered 15 instead of 1.5 in the computer, right? So my first question is like, listen, every single person listening to this show right now types on the computer all the time and hits the wrong button by accident. So that's a total normal human error. And when that gets sent to the pharmacy, and like I said, I have to talk to my cousin to see exactly what the protocol is. But there should definitely be a protocol in place that the pharmacist, there's some kind of a flag somewhere that says this is going to a 2-year-old kid and this would kill a kid. Are you, and to call the doctor and be like, are you sure this is what you meant to put in?
Well, this is exactly what this lawsuit is claiming that the family filed. It said, quote, despite a red flag warning in the hospital's pharmacy system that alerted them to the excessive dosage, they still issued it anyway.
So that's the thing. Like they shouldn't even be able to bypass that because this dosage in a child that's 2 years old, especially this kid was only 30 pounds, it's deadly. So the fact that you could even override it, it's just like something there's just been multiple failures with this case. So this kid ends up getting 2 infusions of this 10 times higher dosage than he should have had. And of course, so now he came in with low potassium. Now his potassium is too high. And when you have too high of potassium, it could cause fatal heart arrhythmias, irregular heartbeat. So then the kid's heart stops. He goes into cardiac arrest. They call a code blue. Then the kid gets failed again because they come in and they can't intubate the kid for 20 minutes. So for 20 whole minutes, this kid's heart is not beating and his organs and brain are not getting oxygen. So even though they were able to get his heart started again, the damage was already done. It was too late. He wasn't getting oxygen in his brain. He wasn't getting oxygen to his organs. So they were able to keep him alive on a ventilator, but essentially he was already dead. There was nothing they could do to bring his brain activity and brain function back. So not only did the mom have to deal with that, but then she had to slowly watch her son die in the hospital before he finally died. So it's just like failure with the doctor typing it in wrong, failure with the pharmacy, failure to intubate him properly, and all of these things. And she's only trying to sue them for $50,000.
I was just going to say, I doubt that even covers his medical bills for 2 weeks in the hospital.
No, they need to get like a heavy duty, hefty. I really hope that some lawyer comes across this case and reaches out to this mother and tries to talk sense into her, because the only way that they're going to do a major overhaul of procedures at that place is to get hit heavy with a lawsuit of a lot of money, which she 100% deserves.
$50,000 is nothing to the hospital system. Actually, friend of the show, Amy Lochran, posted a great graphic on Instagram this morning where I believe it said a saline bag costs $2 to manufacture and a hospital charges $700 for one.
Yeah,
so think about all the money.
And I've actually talked about this with Amy too, because it's the same exact shit in the lab and everything else. And I've told you guys the story about like us needing a refrigerator, a mini refrigerator to hold blood. Like go on Amazon right now and find a mini refrigerator that is capable of holding a refrigerator temperature. You could probably find one for $20, right? One of those ones that kids use for their facials and stuff.
Yeah.
And like, no, you have to order one from Fisher Scientific and it's $600. Like the whole, and that could be said about, I mean, Amy's a nurse, right? That's everything on her floor. I was talking with it from Kara, and she's also a nurse. She also said the same exact thing working on the floor. And then us in the lab, we could go through us having to order anything, even when we order like Post-its and stuff for the lab, just like office supplies, we have to order them through this like Staples, through the hospital. And it's just like nobody would ever pay that much money for office supplies. Like you could just get everything cheaper everywhere else. So all those costs get put onto the patients, and then it gets to the insurance, and then we get higher insurance rates and all that stuff. So it's just the whole entire system is so messed up. But I feel so terrible for this mom. I mean, her kid didn't have to die. He went in with a virus because he was throwing up and vomiting too much, like, and didn't die as a result of that. He was poisoned. Like, that's why he died.
And obviously it's negligence on behalf of the doctor, but to the point you're making, everybody makes typos, and that's why these systems have to be in place. Because we can't rely on technology. It's not perfect, and we're not perfect at using it.
All right, let's move on to drunk drivers. Some of my, I despise drunk driving more than anything in the world. It just, I have no tolerance for it.
So a couple weeks ago, this guy was driving on the highway and crashed into another car. And when police got there, he told them he crashed because he was peeing into a Budweiser can.
So I said that in the beginning of the show, like, is this a common thing? I don't know, like, I don't have a penis and aim like that, but I would just think that peeing into a can with a hole that size is just gonna not turn out well for anybody.
No, and can't you risk, like, cutting your dick to like go
if
near
you're that? I don't know.
I mean, obviously, red flag number 1 is you shouldn't even have an open alcoholic beverage can in your car, right? So it shouldn't even have been
that's
in
like
there.
next level drunk driving when you're actually drinking while you're driving. So
Yes.
of course this guy gets out of the car. He's slurring his speech. He doesn't even want to attempt to walk because he can't. He tells officers, like, don't touch the beer can because it's full of pee, and he's got pee all over the front of his pants. And sure enough, like, oh, guess what? This guy's got 4 prior driving while under the influence. His license is suspended, so now he's driving illegally. And he was on Interstate 90, and it's just like, it's so scary because as like we take road trips all the time out of state, and it's like you're just driving along, people are delivering things, truck drivers, locals, and you have to deal with like some loser like this that's driving around drinking drunk like this. Like,
Well, he said he only had 1 beer.
He's out of control. Like, really?
Yeah, seriously, because one of his 4 DUI convictions was earlier this year. And then he had one in 1994, 1995, and 2007. So if he has 4 convictions, he should be in prison for a very long time, first of all. And they suspended his license. It's not just taken away completely. That's ridiculous. And if he has 4 convictions, that probably means he has drunk drove hundreds of times. Don't they say that you drunk drive like 80 times before you're caught once?
Yes. The statistics are, I mean, like, listen to these statistics too. So according to Mothers Against Drunk Driving deaths, we're not talking about the hundreds of thousands of people who are injured in car accidents. Just deaths represent 30% of traffic fatalities. So that's really significant. I mean, think about the number of people that wouldn't die a year as if it was not a result of drinking and driving, right? It's not taken anywhere near as seriously as it should be because, as you said, if he was pulled over and caught 4 times, that means that this guy drinks and drives like every day of his life, essentially, probably. And it's just I I was thinking about that, and I know that especially Mothers Against Drunk Driving, they're like fighting every day for it to get certain devices put in cars that the cars can't start. But the thing is that this guy doesn't have a driver's license, but it doesn't matter. He still could drive because that little piece of paper in your wallet or that little card in your wallet isn't going to stop you from driving or not. And even if he had one of those devices on his car, he could have used his girlfriend's car or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of impossible to stop, except like you were saying, to actually put people in jail for it. And maybe, but I mean, like, I don't know that really works though, because it's the same thing with like if you want to consider alcoholism an addiction, people who are on drugs, you if you take them and put them in jail and give them the harshest penalties, it doesn't stop them from doing drugs. Like,
so what? He just gets to keep doing it until someone's murdered?
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the way it is right now. You just have to like leave and hope that you're not next.
Well, that's awesome. So they said his breath concentration was more than 3 times the legal limit, despite him saying he only had 1 beer while
Yeah.
driving, by the way.
Especially an alcoholic, that's outrageous, the amount of alcohol that he had, that, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. What are you going to say? It's just like we could talk about this every day. Like
Total loser.
someone is killed every single day, multiple times a day from a drunk driver. And the worst part is it's not usually the drunk driver. It's just some innocent person strolling along that is the victim of it. And it's just, I mean, I really don't know what the solution is.
This episode is brought to you by The Gross Room.
Guys, this week's high profile death dissection in the gross room is on the Thanksgiving Day massacre. It is a really interesting story. Again, one of the many we talk about with a person with a strong history of mental illness and not getting the appropriate treatment. But also, we get into that case about different reasons why autopsy reports would be released to the public versus not, specifically state to state. And one of the victims was pregnant, and we talk about why a person would get charged with murder in some cases. Like, if you remember with the Lacey Peterson homicide, he killed his wife Lacey, but also he got charged with homicide of the fetus as well. And in this particular case, he didn't get charged. So we go back and forth as to why that charges apply in some states versus others. And we also talk about doing an autopsy, a forensic autopsy on pregnant people, and some of the things that you would look for in that case. So all that and more in the gross room this week.
Head over to thegrossroom.com now to sign up.
All right, so talking about Amy Lochran, she had sent us a comment on this next story that we're going to talk about. So let's talk about the story, and then we'll tell you guys Amy's comment on this.
So we've talked about this syndrome before called, you were extra flair with it. You were like, alpha girl, but
because that's how the kids would say it.
But is it alpha girl or alpha gal?
Gal.
Okay, because I was really confused for a second. So basically, a 47-year-old man is the first known person to have died from alpha-gal syndrome. So just to give a clearer picture of the story, last September, this guy was at a barbecue. He ate a hamburger and started feeling sick a couple hours later. But his family said he was okay enough later in the day to mow the lawn and read a newspaper. But after 7:30 p.m. that night, his son found him unconscious with vomit all over the place, and he ended up being pronounced dead. So for a while, his death appeared to be this mystery. But then they also learned from the family that 2 weeks before this, he had a similar allergic reaction while eating a steak. Well, I guess at the time they didn't know it was an allergic reaction, but he got really sick after eating a steak while camping with his family. So after that, this guy's daughter was in a ballet class, and his wife began talking to another mom there who happened to be a pediatrician, and she thought this was weird that the husband had 2 reactions to steak like this. Put the wife of the guy that died in touch with an allergist, and they connected it to this alpha-gal syndrome.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's nothing that I heard about up until recently within the past couple of years, and now it's all over the place and coming out. And I am curious as to why all of a sudden this is a thing and it wasn't a thing even a couple of years ago. So, first let's talk about it. There's in most mammals they have a sugar in their blood that's called alpha gal. And what happens is a tick could feed off of one of these animals and then bite a human. And when the tick bites a human, the saliva goes into the human and it contains these alpha gal molecules, right? And this can cause your body, whenever your body's exposed to something like that, this is kind of like the theory of a vaccine. Your body builds up antibodies to it because it recognizes it as foreign. So then it means the next time that it sees that, it's going to try to it's going to react to it, right? So you get this tick bite and you get alpha gal in your body and your body has a reaction to it and you don't even know it. Then all of a sudden, if you have an allergy to it, you eat red meat and then your body really freaks out because you have this allergy to it because it already recognizes it because it's seen it before from the tick bite. Um, so all of the cases that we've reported on mother nose death so far have just been a person having difficulty breathing, hives. There's all different kinds of presentations, diarrhea, but we've never reported an actual death from it. And this appears to be the first reported death of it. So it makes you think, okay, have people died from this before and had these mysterious deaths that we didn't know what it was? And now all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, people have been dying for years from this? Or what else is taken into consideration? So one of the theories is that these white-tailed deers are one of the hosts of the tick here. So obviously, any person that lives, especially where we live, anybody will tell you that there's been a way big increase of deer from when I was a kid. Anyway, I mean, you just see them all over the place in people's backyards and stuff now.
And it's just Lone Star ticks, right? It's not all ticks.
Yeah, so it's Lone Star ticks. So I mean, that could possibly be the thing. I guess the wife had said that he did not have a tick bite that she knew of, but they were on vacation at some point, and what he thought he was getting all of these little weird ankle bites that were from chiggers. That's what they thought it was, and the researchers are thinking that maybe it was the larva of
Oh.
these deer, these Lone Star ticks that were actually biting on him. So I mean, and a lot of people just don't know if they get a tick bite. So it is scary. One of the things that's really interesting about this alpha gal is that the CDC did a study or a survey in 2023, and 42% of doctors said they never heard of it. And only 35% of doctors said that they would even know to recognize it or test for it. Um, I don't know. I don't know if I talked about this before when we talked about this story, but uh, about within the past year, I went out to dinner with neighbors of ours and I was sitting at the table and it was the weirdest thing. I was feeling perfectly fine that day, sat at the table. I ate steak and I ended up throwing up by the time, like in the bathroom by the time we left the restaurant. It was like the weirdest thing ever. I went home. I was fine. I've eaten meat since then, fine. But I so happened to have a doctor's appointment like a week later, and he's like, "How you feeling?" And I was like, "Oh, I feel good." But do you want to hear something really weird that happened to me? Because it was just too fast to have any kind of food poisoning, or it was just so fast, and all I had was steak. There was nothing else. So he said, I wonder if you have this alpha gal thing. And I was like, what is that? I never even heard of it. So my doctor knew about it and he's like, yeah, it's this it's really going around right now that there might be this allergy to red meat and all of this stuff. So anyway, I guess now they're saying if you ever eat red meat and ever have any kind of reaction like hives or difficulty breathing or anything, just number one, pay attention to it because it's real. And number two, you can go to your doctor and you could get antibody testing to see if you've been exposed to this alpha gal.
So when they're doing a regular autopsy, like after this guy died, they wouldn't easily be able to detect that he had a reaction like that. It's a
They
specialized
saw
test.
that he had increased his blood work did show that he was having some kind of an allergic reaction. They just didn't know what it was to. And
Okay, so
they
then what?
wouldn't routinely just order for the alpha gal unless it was requested because I mean, think about the weird stuff. People are allergic to nutmeg, strawberry. Like you can't
Yeah.
test for everything under the sun. So, um, they didn't know specifically what it was. It just so happens that this pediatrician was in her daughter was in the class with his daughter, and the wife got talking to her, and that's how it just was like a blessing in disguise kind of a thing. But which thank God that kind of happened because number one, it's public service announcement, but number two, the family can get some answers because they might not have ever gotten answers, unfortunately, in a case like this. And imagine just having your spouse kind of die that was perfectly healthy and not really understanding what happened. Because that would make me scared that my kids might have
Oh,
something too,
totally.
and listen, like if they were all vacationing together and he got bit by these ticks, there's certainly a possibility that the children and she did as well.
That's so
So,
scary.
and all it is, it's a blood test that you could find out. It's just like really interesting when something like this happens because obviously humans have been eating meat forever. So, like, why now? Right? Like, what is it now? I don't know. It's just like really, really interesting.
All right, so this is what Amy said. My daughter Alex has this, and after she was bitten multiple times by a Lone Star tick and had an anaphylactic reaction to a steak. Now she can't even go near dairy or mammal meat. She's super sensitive to it, even has to separate her pans in the house now, or she gets hives when she uses one after cooking steak or burgers for her family. Interestingly, my other daughter, Maya, has Lyme disease and could barely get out of bed for a year when she was a teenager. It's not very well known that this Lone Star tick can kill you.
Yeah, and I mean, Amy, I hope your daughter has an EpiPen that she carries with her because that is what you have to use if you have a reaction that's that bad.
Well, I
Uh,
asked her if there's any treatment or cure, and she said no. So that's even scarier to think about people having to deal with this. And I mean, how could you totally avoid red meat or anything? Like, people even just use beef broth in regular
well, you
cooking.
can. I mean, vegan people do it all the time.
Well, yeah, I guess you would just have to be
You just
vegan.
or vegetarian. Real.
Yeah,
I mean, without dairy though, like because you can get it. They said especially like high fat dairy, like milkshakes and ice cream,
yeah.
can set it off too. So you just have to live like a pretty strict. You don't have to necessarily be vegetarian even because this protein is not it's in mammals but it's not in chickens and turkey and fish, so you could eat meat if you want to. You're not going to get sick from eating that kind of meat. It's just more like animal products, and I mean it could even be in gelatin, so marshmallow, like
That's
it's
what I'm saying. I just
yeah,
feel like it's like so hard
you
to.
just have to be like the same thing that people do with a nut allergy or something. You just have to be careful what you eat. Same with celiac or anything. You just have to be careful, and you just can't easily go out to dinner like you once could. But I think the biggest key is really pinpointing and getting the blood work done to say that yes, you do have antibodies to this, and yes, you're having a reaction.
God, it's so terrible. All right, this 41-year-old man with severe mental disabilities was living in a group home, and for some of his issues, he took medication that caused severe constipation. So I guess he had been complaining about the constipation and abdominal pain to the staff there. Nobody took him seriously, and then he ended up dying. And what did they find?
Okay, so they did an autopsy and they diagnosed him with something called attention pneumoperitoneum, which is just an excessive amount of gas buildup, not what you would think of gas like when you have to fart and stuff. It's gas around the organs. And the reason that that could kill a person is because if gas accumulates underneath the skin around the organs, it could compress some of the organs and it could push the diaphragm up so far that it could cause difficulty that the heart has a difficult time beating. It could get um it doesn't put blood out as fast as it should be doing because of so much air pushing up on it, and the blood's not returning back to the heart quick enough, right? So the reason that this happened, they think, is because he had so much poop inside of his intestines that it it put like micro tears inside of his bowel, and air, and when you have poop inside of your bowels, those bacteria are constantly putting off gases, and that's why you fart, right? Well, if you have a big turd that's inside of your colon, that gas can't get through. So it builds up inside the bowel. But if there's tears in the bowel, that gas leaks out, and that's how it gets into the abdominal cavity. Typically, at autopsy, when we see poop, we might just mention what it looks like. Was it watery? Was it bloody? Did it appear to be constipated? But in this case, at the autopsy, they actually weighed the poop. And poop doesn't have a normal weight. And normally when organs or things don't have a normal weight, like what's the point of measuring them? Because they could be this, they could be that. But there's never a situation where someone should have anywhere near 20 pounds of impacted feces inside of their bowel. This guy, after investigation, he wasn't going to the bathroom for months. And I guess the really messed up part of it was that he was mentally ill. He was on medications that caused constipation. And the center he was living at had no kinds of checks to make sure that the patients were going to the bathroom every day.
I mean, the family's suing the place, and I 100% could get behind this, because if he was being vocal about having issues and they were just blowing him off, didn't they say too he had a giant bruise on his abdomen?
Yeah, he had a giant bruise across his abdomen, and he had all signs that he was dealing with severe constipation. And the thing is that he was very young, right? In his early 40s.
Yeah.
Attention pneumoperitoneum is considered a medical emergency, but if you go get surgery and also just handle this impaction, like, he didn't have to die from this. And this took a long time for this to happen. You don't think about all of the food you eat every single day and stuff, and putting it together and making it weigh 20 pounds. And that's after all the fluids removed from it, all the nutrients are removed from it. It's chewed up. That's just like a lot of poop for a lot of food that wasn't getting through.
It's excessive.
It is. And if you're trusting that your child or your loved one is at a home that's taking care of them because they're so mentally ill that they can't live by themselves, then this is their fault.
It is just terrible. I can't. It's so unacceptable
it is.
to be ignoring somebody
and it's sad
like that.
too, because I'm sure everyone listening right now has dealt with constipation at some point in their life. It's terrible. It is absolutely terrible. And he was complaining so much about abdominal pain to so many people for such a long time. And they were trying to get him to sit on the toilet. Like, how uneducated are these people that are taking care of these people? Like, when you have that much poop stuck in your stomach, you can't just sit on the toilet and push it out. There has to be lots of interventions of Miralax and laxatives and possible surgical intervention and enemas and things like that. You can't just be like, oh, sit down and try to poop.
Well, yeah, and they're claiming that they never alerted his physician either, so nobody was even going to be looking at this, and they were clearly not trained enough to be dealing with it.
Yeah.
All right, last story. This woman was 5 months pregnant and ended up developing a life-threatening infection which required surgery to remove her fetus, who did not survive. So a couple weeks ago, she picked up her son's ashes and stopped at Target on the way home, leaving the urn inside of the car. So she comes back to the car after an hour and finds the box the urn was in is ripped open and the urn is nowhere to be found. Who steals ashes from a car?
Well, unfortunately, it's because someone thought that the urn was worth money, and they don't care. They just don't care.
At that point, I'm not saying this is right, but at that point, you can't dump them into the box so she at least has her child. If you're gonna steal the vessel,
I just don't think people care. They just don't care.
The worst part of this story is that she said 2 people in their early 20s were eyeing her down, and then when she went in the store and they reviewed the security, they're the ones that did it. So you did it, and then you're gonna stare her down. Like, can this lady have 1 second of peace? She
Yeah,
already lost her kid.
it's sad because she was pregnant and she had to be forced to have an elective termination because of some infection that she had. They didn't really elaborate on that. But she she had to get this procedure done and went through the extra lengths that many people I know from experience working in pathology don't go through, which is having the funeral home come to the hospital and pick up the fetal remains and cremate them. It's not commonly done in relation to how many times procedures like that are done. And which means to me that she really wanted this child and she couldn't because of medical reasons, and she wanted a proper burial, and like that's a lot. That's a huge decision for a woman to even have to make to begin with, going through that heartache. And then on top of that, trying to keep the remains with you, and then some scumbag decides to break into your car and steal it. It's just so it's so cruel. And I hope by getting the story out that somebody would hear it and just be like, just return, pour it into a bag and just leave it at a police station or something. I don't know. Like,
That's what I'm saying. Like, obviously they're pieces of shit and they don't care, but I'm like, it's clear as day. It's an urn. It's not a freaking vase, right? Like, you know what's inside of it. So you couldn't even have left it. Not that that would have been so incredibly fucked up and disrespectful too if they dumped it out in the box. But like, this lady doesn't care about the value of the vessel. She just wants her son's remains. It's so terrible.
didn't we talk about a story that a mom had the remains stolen out of her car too before?
Probably.
I don't
You know, I
remember it.
can't remember anything we talked
I know.
about past last week.
You know what? Something like triggered when I was reading this. I was like, "Oh, we covered this story a while ago." And then when I read it, I was like, "No, this is a new story." It had something to do with like, oh, it wasn't the car. It was, didn't the mom have, wasn't she like sending the son via UPS the ashes, and she didn't declare that they were, was it UPS or the postal service, whatever, didn't declare it was ashes, and the package got lost or something like that. And
Yeah, like we've had stories like that. We had that one of that guy that was on an airplane and the ashes got opened in his luggage by accident. We had the kids that ate the ashes. We've had people that have vacuumed them up. But there is a special place in hell for people that break into a person's car and steals ashes of their loved ones just to get what, $10 for the urn?
yeah, I don't know.
It's disgusting. All right, let's move on to questions and email. So if you guys have any questions or comments or stories you want to share with us, please share them at stories@motherknowsdeath.com. So we already read Amy's, so let's get on to Jen's. Jen says, I'm the CT tech that previously emailed you about the portable x-ray machine. You probably don't remember, but I met you at Darkside and mentioned my son is a pilot. In response to your question about what happens when an aircraft seat gets soiled, if the plane has a quick turnaround, they'll be delayed, but only for a short time, during which they will make an announcement that typically would be something like, we need to change a light fixture on the plane. The entire seat cover comes off like a slipcover and is replaced with a clean one. Well, that's good to know. And other affected areas, floor walls get cleaned and disinfected. They have maintenance staff to assist the flight attendants who work incredibly fast. Before I sign off, I just have to tell you guys that I bust out laughing every time I hear Maria say, ew. You guys are amazing and I love your show. Thank you, Jen. Thank you for this information.
Yeah, and of course we remember you.
You were amazing.
Yes, we love you. So, oh my God. Yeah, thank you. I figured that it could have been something like that. I just was thinking like a slip cover, right? Is like a cushion underneath that the poop would just seep through, but maybe they're kind of waterproof, like a,
Well,
you
that
know,
would be
those
smart of
waterproof like
them.
mattress protectors you could put on.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like something like that, but I love that you said that they're like, oh, we have to change a light bulb. Like, so next time I ever hear that they're doing some maintenance like that, then you're going to be like, okay, who took a shit on the seat that I'm about to go sit in?
No, seriously. And you just have to hope it's not yours. All right, last. Somebody asked my hot take on the Blake Lively Justin Baldoni situation. I don't really have a hot take. I think they're both incredibly annoying people, and I honestly want this to go away. I'm tired of hearing about it. What
I
do
have
you
a hot
think?
take. I just can't stand her.
I can't stand either of them.
I can't stand that whole crew of people. They're just annoying. I don't know.
He had a podcast about male feminism. No, thank you. And then she is
What
just
does that mean?
he's a male feminist, don't you know? But
What
then he got
what's a
accused
male
of
feminist?
sexually assaulting somebody or sexually harassing somebody. It's a man that stands up for women's rights. It's such bullshit. It's like, I don't know. It's such fraudulent behavior to like act like you're this higher than that or higher than everybody else, like this great man that blah blah blah.
That's how every celebrity is.
Yeah,
Not every, but most.
so disgusting. And then she is like the devil. There's been rumors about her that she's been terrible forever. And then when you hear about everything that happened on that dumb movie about a dumb book, I'm sorry, that author is not good. Just it's not good. I'm sorry. But she, was trying to take over the script. She's trying to have her dragons or whatever get involved and have her friends write songs. And then I think I just heard that they fired the costume designer and she was bringing her own clothes from home, which that movie has the worst costume design I've ever seen in my life. She looks so terrible, totally unflattering. And then I read that she wanted to get paid as the costume designer too. So you put somebody out of a job and totally ruined a movie that could have been aesthetically nice. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. The privilege these people have is unbelievable.
I don't know. The whole thing is like, it just seems like a conjured up nothing. And I guess a lot of people are talking about did that movie like actually make any money, or
The movie did actually make. I mean, the book is extremely popular, so the movie.
why is the book terrible?
I just don't like the way that author writes. I've tried to read her books before, and I've almost read 100 books this year. Think about that. I've at 89 books this year so far, and and some of them are truly terrible, but if I can't even get past like 10 to 20% of a book, I can't focus on the writing, and that's bad. Think about that. And I can read almost anything. Just try to read a couple of her books, and it's just not for me. But I think the message of showing domestic violence and everything, it was cool that somebody tried to like bring that to light and try to like get awareness for it and everything. But I think the movie got lost. I think that message got lost with all this drama behind that movie.
Just based upon like, I'm just talking shit right now. Based upon what I've heard, my personal opinion is that she was filming that movie and like started having a crush on that guy.
Oh, totally.
And like he rejected her in some way or something, and then she did all this shit to be retaliatory. That's my personal, like, just from life experience, that's what seemed like it happened. And some of the texts that during their text exchange, because remember they got released, I just felt like it was her trying to like test the waters to see if he would reciprocate like a little bit more than a friendship.
Well, yeah. And I mean, I think she's married to an incredibly powerful person.
That guy sucks.
He sucks too. I mean, with all this drama coming out, I never really liked him that much, but I really like he skeeves me out when I see his face now. And one of my favorite Christmas movies ever is Just Friends, and I don't know if I can watch it anymore because I seriously can't stand his face. And I don't want to hear his voice.
Well, I know it sucks too, because one of my movies when I was younger that I thought was like a really funny movie is Waiting.
Oh yeah, like
that
things
like that
like
movie. That movie was like really funny, but now I'm just kind of like, it like now that he's a rock star and stuff, it's just like turn off. Listen, honestly, like I've been saying this, I feel like I said it on Gandhi's show, and I'll say it here. Like there was so much mystery to these fabulous lives that movie stars used to live, and we didn't know too many details, and I just feel like it should stay that way. Once they start showing their personality and opening their mouth and stuff, you're kind of like, yeah, no.
Yeah, I mean, I even just found out. Thank you, Kim Morgan, again for recommending that book about Charles Manson called Chaos. I recommend everybody reads it. I just finished it. But in that book, I just found out that Charles Manson was staying with Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys. And now I'm like, well, now I have a new perspective on him when I knew nothing about him before.
No, I feel like I knew that before. There was some connection there. I feel like I heard.
I don't want to know what these freaks do in their personal life. I just want to watch movies and enjoy the art. I don't want to know anything about them anymore. I'm over it.
But the more that comes out about celebrities and like what's going between the Diddy thing and the Epstein thing and stuff, you're just like, what is going on?
It's the question we always pose. How do people live? It is
How do
unbelievable.
yeah, it's just like the parties they're going to and the people they're affiliating with and stuff. It's just like, it's just I don't know. You're on this plane, you're doing it, like what?
I don't know what happens in these people's lives. I can't fathom being on their level. So maybe when you get up there, it's like some Scientology, you unlocks the Lord Xenu, and then you
Yeah.
understand all of a sudden. But I don't know what are these people doing, and I'm tired of hearing about their lives. I wish they would go away. Honestly, all of them. Some exciting news. We have some new merch coming out, and we are hoping to have the store ready by Friday with DVD. But it'll be ready either Friday or Saturday, and grocery members will have 24 hours exclusive access before everybody else. So we've been working really hard on new designs. I think you guys are gonna love all of that. And if you
We
ever-
also have exclusive designs for the gross room, but we have stuff for the gross room, Mother Knows Death, Dora Mater, some of your favorite sayings.
and if you have sayings you like, we say, please email them to us too, because we're
Or
always
a-
open to
Yeah,
options.
or any merch ideas, that would be awesome.
Any merch ideas. Okay, guys, if you want to head over to Apple or Spotify and leave us a review, that would be awesome. And subscribe to our YouTube channel, that would be great. And as always, if you have questions or comments for us or stories, send them to stories@motherknowsdeath.com.
See ya. Thank you for listening to Mother Knows Death. As a reminder, my training is as a pathologist assistant. I have a master's level education and specialize in anatomy and pathology education. I am not a doctor and I have not diagnosed or treated anyone, dead or alive, without the assistance of a licensed medical doctor. This show, my website, and social media accounts are designed to educate and inform people based on my experience working in pathology so they can make healthier decisions regarding their life and well-being. Always remember that science is changing every day, and the opinions expressed in this episode are based on my knowledge of those subjects at the time of publication. If you are having a medical problem, have a medical question, or are having a medical emergency, please contact your physician or visit an urgent care center, emergency room, or hospital. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Mother Knows Death on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks.